Welcome to. In this edition, we will analyze the 10 news stories that marked the week of October 14th to the 20th, 2024. From the intensification of the conflict in Gaza to the tensions between the United States and China, through the energy crisis in Europe and the persistent threat of climate change, this week reminds us of the fragility of peace and the urgency of finding global solutions. The violence in Gaza continues to escalate, with no end in sight. The relentless bombings have turned the once bustling city into a war zone, filled with smoke and destruction. This week, the targeted killing of Hamas leaders has unleashed a new and intense wave of bombings by Israel, further exacerbating the already dire situation. Meanwhile, groups like Hezbollah have vowed to intensify their resistance, promising more violence and unrest in the region. The images that reach us from Gaza are nothing short of devastating. Overcrowded hospitals struggle to cope with the influx of injured civilians, with medical staff working around the clock under extreme conditions. Families are desperately seeking refuge among the rubble, their homes destroyed, their lives turned upside down. The sense of loss and despair is palpable. The growing uncertainty of a population trapped in the crossfire is heart-wrenching. Civilians are caught between the warring factions, with nowhere to turn for safety. Humanitarian aid faces enormous obstacles to reach those who need it most. Blockades and ongoing violence make it nearly impossible for aid workers to deliver essential supplies. Beyond the staggering numbers, each victim has a name, a story, and a family that suffers their absence. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable. Families are left to mourn their loved ones, grappling with the pain and loss that comes with such senseless violence. At our news organization, we will continue to give a voice to the victims, ensuring their stories are heard and their suffering is not forgotten. We demand that world leaders take decisive action to seek a peaceful and lasting solution to this crisis. The time for change is now, and the world must come together to end this cycle of violence and suffering. Only through collective effort and unwavering commitment can we hope to bring peace and stability to the people of Gaza. This year's Nobel Prize in Economics has been awarded to economists Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson, and James A. Robinson for their groundbreaking and innovative work on the profound and lasting effects of colonization on economic development across the globe. Their extensive research sheds light on the deep-rooted causes of inequality that continue to persist in many post-colonial nations, highlighting the stark contrasts between wealth and poverty. They argue convincingly that the political and economic institutions established during the colonial era have had a profound and lasting impact on the development trajectory of these countries. These institutions, often designed to extract resources and maintain control, have left a legacy that continues to shape the economic and political landscapes of post-colonial societies. This prestigious award not only recognizes the academic brilliance and contributions of these distinguished economists, but also serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of addressing the structural causes of global inequality. Their work encourages policymakers, scholars, and the public to engage in meaningful discussions and actions to tackle these deep-seated issues. To build a fairer and more equitable future, it is essential to understand and learn from the injustices of the past. By acknowledging and addressing the historical roots of inequality, we can work towards creating a world where opportunities and resources are more evenly distributed, fostering a sense of global unity and fairness. This recognition is a step towards that vision, inspiring hope and action for a better tomorrow. Hurricane Helene, with fierce winds and torrential rains, has left a trail of destruction in its wake along the east coast of the United States. Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas have been the hardest hit, causing massive flooding, power outages, and millions of dollars in damage to infrastructure. Thousands of people have been displaced from their homes, seeking refuge in makeshift shelters while authorities work against the clock to assess the damage and provide assistance. Hurricane Helene is a call to action for governments and society to take urgent measures to mitigate the effects of climate change. Europe is facing an unprecedented energy crisis. The prices of natural gas and electricity have reached record levels in recent weeks. The shortage of natural gas supply, low wind power generation, and increased demand after the pandemic are some of the factors that explain this crisis. The current crisis highlights Europe's dependence on Russian natural gas and the need to accelerate the transition to renewable energy sources. Poland held crucial parliamentary elections this Sunday in a climate of political and social polarization. The Law and Justice Party, in power since 2015, faced an opposition coalition led by the Civic Platform Party. Preliminary results indicate that the PiS won the majority of the votes, but not enough to govern alone. The elections in Poland have implications that transcend the country's borders, affecting Poland's relationship with the European Union and the independence of the judiciary. At a time when Europe is facing multiple challenges, Poland's political stability is crucial for the region. Trade tensions between the United States and China have re-emerged strongly this week, generating uncertainty in financial markets. The Biden administration announced new restrictions on the export of semiconductors and artificial intelligence technology to China, arguing that these measures are necessary to protect national security. Beijing has announced that it will retaliate, raising fears of a new escalation in the trade war between the two powers. The migration crisis in the Mediterranean remains an open wound on Europe's conscience. Despite efforts to control borders, thousands of migrants and refugees continue to risk their lives on dangerous sea crossings. Humanitarian organizations denounce the lack of resources and the ineffectiveness of European migration policies. It is necessary to address the root causes of migration, such as poverty, violence, and climate change, while guaranteeing legal and safe routes for migration. Former Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa is once again at the center of a corruption scandal rocking the country. This is not the first time Correa has faced such allegations, as his tenure was often marred by accusations of corruption and misuse of power. He is accused of being involved in a bribery scheme during his government, which has generated outrage among the population. The scandal has sparked widespread protests, with citizens demanding accountability and justice. Many believe that this case is just the tip of the iceberg, revealing deeper issues within the political system. Correa has denied the accusations, calling them political persecution. He claims that his opponents are using the judicial system to tarnish his reputation and prevent him from making a political comeback. Despite his denials, the controversy continues to grow, with new evidence and testimonies emerging. However, the Ecuadorian prosecutor's office has presented evidence linking Correa to the case, which has led to the issuance of an arrest warrant against him. The legal proceedings are expected to be lengthy and complex, involving multiple witnesses and extensive documentation. The fight against corruption is a challenge for all of Latin America, a region that has been hit by scandals that have undermined democracy and weakened institutions. From Brazil to Mexico, leaders and citizens alike are grappling with the pervasive issue of corruption, striving to build more transparent and accountable governments. The outcome of Correa's case could set a significant precedent for the region, influencing how future corruption cases are handled and perceived. Latin America continues to be the scene of a growing wave of social protests that reflect the population's discontent with inequality, corruption, and lack of opportunities. In recent weeks, thousands of people have taken to the streets in countries like Chile, Argentina, and Peru to express their frustration with the political class. Protesters denounced the lack of access to quality education and health, job insecurity, and the rising cost of living. Governments in the region face the challenge of responding to the demands of the population and finding long-term solutions to structural problems. The UN has issued a new warning about the growing food crisis affecting millions of people in the Horn of Africa. Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya are the hardest-hit countries, where millions of people face shortages of food, drinking water, and basic medical care. The international community has called for action to mobilize resources and provide humanitarian assistance to affected populations. However, the magnitude of the crisis requires a coordinated and sustained long-term response. A joint effort by the international community is needed to build a fairer and more sustainable future for all. And so we come to the end of our journey through the 10 most impactful news of this week. Don't forget to subscribe to our Noticias and activate notifications so you don't miss any of our next editions. Your support is essential so that we can continue reporting with the truth and depth that characterizes us. See you next week.